Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. Hope you all are doing well. Let's take a look and see what is going on with Bitcoin. So, yesterday I was able to get in a long, didn't get the best entry, was right around weekly open here that I got in. So, basically right around 5, 6 o'clock. And I just held it. I held it. I had a deep stop loss. I was convicted that, we basically were going to pump for today. I had multiple reasons to be that way, mainly because we had a draw on liquidity back here. I did get out of this trade though. I was around 76,100. I just kind of wrote it up barely. But I got in again right around weekly open, wrote it down, over through the night. Had a really deep stop. It was basically below almost around 76, low 76 area because I knew that we could possibly make a 786. Um, but it wasn't the best entry, but I was able to get a fairly decent profit with this pump coming up here. So I woke up in a nice gain, and it took profit. But this is, this is where it gets difficult, guys, because we don't know how far this is going to go up. I know that I told you guys 79.5, which we did finally hit. We kind of basically kind of front ran it earlier today. Right around 6 o'clock, we kind of front ran that number there, made a high of 79,390. But we finally did hit it later on in the day. We hit it, about 79,635. Now this could keep going, right? This wasn't a flag; it could keep going up. It's just now you're getting more and more overextended. Remember, I was talking about that 80,500-ish area, so we could come up, test that, and then come back down. I'm going to be good and wait for a bigger retracement now. I don't know if that's going to be, down into the 79K-ish range or 78 or 77 or even 76 potentially or lower. But to me, this is going to be high risk because now you're chasing this pump, especially at the beginning of the week as well. Remember, I told you guys that if we pump, I posted this on X last night. If we pump the beginning of the week, just know that there's a potential, unless we are going to continue this extremely bullish move, that we can basically have a bearish week. So this is, definitely, in my opinion, overextended, and especially because we are doing this on a Monday, it does sketch me out a little bit. All right, let's take a look at the daily candle real quick. So you can kind of see we were in a small-ish flag. This probably does look better on some of the smaller time frames, but we were in a small flag that did break out, right? We kind of did this somewhat of this kind of flag here. I probably should line it up here with some of these other ones. Actually, it looks like it was more so something like this here that broke out. And I think I had this drawn out yesterday, but we did something like that, and this kind of broke out. That's not great. I'm not a huge flag guy, so bear with me here. Yeah, something like this. Some sort of a bullish flag like this on the 8 hour. So we did something like this. We broke out. We could get this type of candle right here. I mean, the measured move does probably take us to the 80,500-ish area. Let's see where it takes us here. Yeah, to the dot basically, 80,500. So we could get that move up into 80,500, but it's never a guarantee, right? And Bitcoin lately has been front running levels, whether it be to the upside or the downside. So just keep that in mind, guys. We are very, very overextended. We're making kind of a double top here. I personally am not going to short this at all. I'm not a fan of shorting in a very strong uptrend at that. So for me, it's going to be more so just kind of sitting on my hands and waiting for that discount if we can get one. You don't have to catch every pump. That's the biggest thing is that, especially if you make good profit for the day like I did, you don't have to feel like you have to chase this all the time. It's definitely something that is difficult to train your brain to do, but that's one of the biggest rookie mistakes is to keep chasing these pumps as they keep going up. Because at one point it is going to wreck you. It's going to come back down fairly strongly. Usually it does, to basically knock out some of the longs. It doesn't have to retrace a lot, but it does retrace quite a bit to where it usually will hit your stop. All right, taking a look at the 1 hour, so you can see it kind of made this Adam and Eve, then this kind of head and shoulders pattern, and then it completely reversed and showed that it was making an inverse head and shoulders pattern. So very interesting price action here. This did look like a Bart Simpson. It could still be a Bart Simpson. So just be wary of that, and that could take you down again into this range down here to 74, 750-ish area. But we got to take a look at liquidity and kind of see what's going on there, because as of right now, this is very difficult since we're entering new ranges. This is very difficult to identify, what we may be looking at here as far as, our actual price action goes. And maybe later on tonight, I will give you guys an overview of and see kind of what range we may be entering into, since we're now in the high 79-ish range. Because obviously now we're in basically I would assume, a discount of another area. Okay. All right. That being said, let's go ahead and move into liquidity. Taking a look at our 4-hour, let's see where we're at here. All right. So 4-hour is starting to dive into this pool up here. So once again, guys, like I said, we're going to have probably some issues in this yellow reddish zone. Okay. We probably won't just breeze through here. So 80,000 even to 80,400 is probably going to be a fairly tough level for us to crack, right? So I'm not expecting price to be able to just kind of blast through here just yet. Now, keep in mind as well, to the downside, you do have that, middle of the order block area that is now showing up as green. So there's a potential that we could get that move down into here, right? 74.8-ish area. We don't have to get the full move down, but maybe testing the top of it around 75K even could be a potential realistic opportunity for us to get more in sync with price, especially entering another long down here if you were to play a bigger time frame. So I'm going to probably, I might not wait until the full move down, and I have multiple trading accounts. I might do one on the macro time frame that hits this. But, again, I'm going to be looking for smaller intraday scalps, hitting 786 levels within a higher range, right? But just know that the more that happens, the more risky that move is, right? The more that we do that. Taking a look at the 1 hour. So the 1 hour, we started diving into this liquidity up here. We're starting to build more down, into the 75K-ish range, which aligns with that 4 hour. You could even, get a retracement down into 76,000. We don't have to take the full move, like I said. So just be aware that there is, a potential that we can basically get a retracement, pretty far down, about $4,000 or $5,000 down, which is a good opportunity for a short. But again, it's going to be very high risk because we are in such an uptrend. You're basically, it's almost like a gambling risk, right? You're trying to catch I guess a toss knife, you would say, because it's not a falling knife, but it's something that is, basically going up. But it is going to be an extremely dangerous move. Definitely would not recommend DCAing this move. If you are going to try to take it, you could potentially put a stop maybe above 81,000 to try to see if you can get that move down. Again, it's going to be extremely, extremely high risk. So highly do not recommend doing that. But do what you want with that information. I do not want to stop you if you did want to try it, okay? Taking a look at the 15-minute, you can see that, we do have the liquidity to get us all the way up even into 81,600 area where we can't even see any more liquidity to the upside. So it can just be violent. It can keep going if it wants to, right? This 100x shows that we can get to about 80,800. So again, guys, like, you could try to shorting it, but you'd have to protect way up here probably. You even have some orders all the way up to 82,000 now. So just be aware that this could get very, very, violent, right? I mean, it just, we don't know what price action has in store for us this week. So it could be another very crazy week to the upside. Now, as far as your orders go as well, to the downside, you are looking at 78,000. There was an order there. There's some orders building up down here, 75,875. There's an order here at 74.5, which aligns with the middle of that order block like we talk about. So just know that it's not just orders to the upside. There are some to the downside. Of course, the orders to the upside, though, are much closer by, right? So there's a potential that we take them out first. This could be acting as an area of resistance, though. You can see that we have basically a couple orders in a row. It looks like we have, from 79,800 to 80,000. So within a $200 range, definitely could act as resistance here. Would not be surprised if we do get some sort of retracement right now, especially given that it's Monday. But if one of these orders does get pulled, just know that there's a potential we could keep moving up, especially if one acts as fuel as well. The 79,800 order could be potentially acting as fuel if we get back into it. So just keep that in mind, okay? All right, that being said, those are some levels to look out for the day. Nothing really intra range, I would say. You do have this one down here at 78,000 that you could potentially watch. But again, it's going to be dependent on if we do get that drop, how violent of a drop we get, how it reacts to 78,000. You could maybe wait until we get into the 75K or 74K-ish range again. It's going to be very interesting to see kind of how these first days play out for Bitcoin. All right, taking a final look at our symbol map now. Let's see what levels we could maybe watch for the day. So let me go ahead and zoom in kind of to where we're at current price. All right, so to the downside, if we were to get the move down, guys, it does look like we can really kind of just roll through. You don't have a lot of orders, so that is a good sign and a bad sign, but it does mean that if we got the move to the downside, you'd basically be looking at our first area being around 78.5, which is kind of the first impulse that I see. If you lose that, you're going down to 77,760 and then followed by 77,100. And you can basically just kind of roll down, as this goes, 76,600, 76,470. It's going to be a very quick drop, it looks like, if we were to get that drop. And then to the upside, your first area of resistance is going to be 79,800, which is what we know. That's this order right here. You get above that, you're going to test around 79,860, and then you're going to test around 80,000-ish area. 80,040 is going to be a very tough area for us to get past, okay? So just be aware of that. But if we're able to get past 80,040, it does look like we can really get that follow through, right? Follow through all the way down, probably at least until we get this next impulse right around 81,760. So it is looking very bullish if we can get past 80,000. All right, taking a look at your swing time frames here. So let's take a look and see where we're at with those. So again, guys, to the downside, you don't have a lot, right? So if you get that move to the downside, it could get ugly. 77,760 would be your first target, and then to about 77,130, then getting into the 76, low 76, range, 76.5 and lower, right? So that's kind of what I'm seeing here. And then obviously, like I said, guys, to the upside, you got to get past 78,000. Sorry, 79,800. We're now in the 79 range, which is crazy. We were just at 78. 79,800, you get that follow through all the way to about 80,000 to 80,040. You get above 80,040, you can get that huge follow through, potentially to that 81, 760-ish area. All right, guys, that being said, that is what I have for you for this morning. I hope you guys have a wonderful trading day. Really stay safe. Be very cognizant about what trades you're taking. We are very overextended. Just be aware of that. It did look like we absorbed that 79,800 area, so if we don't get the pullback soon, it does mean that was probably an order for acceleration, so we could basically now visit 80,000-ish area and see if that's going to pull us back. But anyways, guys, that is what I'm seeing for today. I hope you all have a wonderful day, a safe trading day, and I will talk to you all later. Take care.